Give me a moment of your time, and I'll help you uncover the truth behind what you've been calling weakness, not by pumping you full of empty hype, not by tossing around shallow words of encouragement, but by helping you realize that this so-called weakness is nothing more than a made-up story, a script you've repeated so often you've mistaken it for who you are. But if you're willing to really pay attention, if you're brave enough to sit with the discomfort and let these words reach the parts of you you've been hiding, then something inside you will break apart, and what rises from that crack won't be a better you, it'll be the real you, the one that's been buried under years of pretending and protecting what holds you back. Let us be honest. Nietzsche wasn't he in the business of soothing the fragile? He didn't write for those afraid of pain or hard truths. He wrote for those ready to look life dead in the eye and stop sugarcoating reality with comfort, for those tired of running from themselves, for those who finally saw that nothing and no one is coming to rescue them, and decided to stop waiting. If that's where you are, if you've had enough of fear disguising itself as wisdom, if you redone with being apologetic, overgentle, and emotionally edited down to nothing, then this isn't your glow up. This is your return, because strength has never lived outside of you. It's just been buried under doubt, conditioning, and a deep addiction to ease. So let's start here. Ask yourself, what is weakness? Most people think it's about being too emotional or too quiet, or not having enough drive, but that's not how Nietzsche or I would define it. Weakness isn't feeling things deeply. Weakness is letting those feelings control you. Weakness is needing approval to act. Weakness is placing your worth in the hands of people who are just as lost as you. Weakness is choosing comfort over truth. It's staying silent when you want to speak. It's calling your avoidance self-love and masking your fear as humility and labeling your lack of courage as kindness. Weakness isn't about lacking power. It's about giving it away, and here's the harsh truth. The modern world profits from your weakness. Your schooling taught you to obey, your culture taught you to blend, and your media feeds you fear and calls it being informed. And even the people who say they care often gain from you being small, from your quietness, your hesitations, your tendency to hold back. Oh, they praise your niceness. They reward your inaction. They call your silence strength. Not because it helps you, but because it keeps you controllable, predictable, easy to forget. Nietzsche understood this clearly. He saw how the world turns you into a tame version of who you could be, and he said, the individual has always had to fight, not to be crushed by the group. He wasn't talking about fists and weapons. He was talking about your inner world, the battle to trust your gut, while everyone else tells you to ignore it, the fight to stay powerful. Not reckless, not cruel, but powerful in a society that only values you when you easy to manage, well-mannered and submissive. And that's why the first step in becoming who you really are is weakness. Is when you've been taught to confuse being weak with being good, to think that saying no is mean, that having limits makes you selfish, that choosing yourself is somehow wrong. But Nietzsche saw it all differently. He believed real strength, the kind that draws respect, presence, and power, comes from refusing to follow the crowd, from stepping away from comfort, from letting go of the need to be accepted. So let me ask you this. Who are you when you're not trying to be liked? Not as an idea, but for real. Take off the mask. Stop adjusting your voice, your thoughts, your truth. If no one expected you to be nice, to be quiet, soft, or always agreeable, who would you become? What truths would you finally speak? What standards would you raise? What would you walk away from, unapologetically? Most people don't know, because their entire self-image is built on reactions, on praise, likes, attention. They don't have an identity. They wear one. They've crafted a personality to blend in, to stay safe. Nietzsche couldn't stand that. He saw it as a quiet death, the slow decay of a person's inner fire. Because the moment you dull your truth to fit in, the moment you tame yourself for approval, you give away your edge. And deep down, you already feel it, don't you? That low-level frustration you can't explain. That inner weight you carry, even after resting. That's not exhaustion. That's the price of self-betrayal. The cost of living in a way that buries your instincts to keep the peace. And Nietzsche would have told you this. You weren't meant to be gentle all the time. You weren't meant to accept everything quietly. You weren't meant to shrink. Every time someone disapproves, you were built for something stronger. Something raw, focused, and deeply rooted. Not messy, just solid. Not wild, just immovable. And the reason you feel powerless now, is because you've been ignoring that side of yourself for so long. You've started thinking it never existed. But it did. It still does. And now, we're going to bring it back. Let's start by looking at your habits. Because weakness hides in your routines, in small, daily choices that slowly drain your strength while convincing you that everything's okay. Nietzsche once said, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." You wake up and check your phone. Right there, you've already lost. Not because your phone is evil, but because you gave away the start of your day. You didn't take control, you gave it up. You scroll, you compare, you start to feel behind. Then you justify it. You tell yourself it's no big deal. But every time you react before you create, you weaken your sense of self-direction. You start to go soft, emotionally lazy. You lose sharpness. You lose control. It's time to flip that. Take your mornings back. Before you reach for a screen, check in with your body. Notice your breath. Remember, you weren't born to scroll. You were made to make, to shape, to lead. And your attention isn't some free gift for tech companies to grab the moment you wake up. Next, let's talk about how you speak. Weakness slips out through your language, in how you tone yourself down so others don't feel uncomfortable, in how you speak gently so they don't feel insecure, in how you pretend not to know when you actually do, in how you say sorry for things that don't deserve an apology. If that's energy leaking out, and others can sense it, that's why they interrupt you. That's why they don't take you seriously. That's why they overlook you. Nietzsche didn't write in whispers. He wrote like his words were on fire. And he expected you to carry that same fire. Not by being loud, but by being clear. Clarity is a force. Clarity makes people stop and pay attention. And if your presence doesn't do that yet, then you've got some rebuilding to do. Not because you're broken, but because you've been hiding. Stop hiding. Say what you believe, clearly. Don't over-explain. Let your silence after speaking carry weight. Most people are afraid of silence. You won't be, because silence creates tension, and tension builds respect. Now let's look at your emotions. You think being strong means feeling nothing. That's not strength. That's emotional dysfunction. Nietzsche didn't teach you to go numb. He taught you to take command. It means you can feel everything and still choose what to do. You don't lash out. You don't chase. You don't over-explain. You just look. You wait. And when you act, it's controlled, precise, surgical. That's what power looks like. Weakness is emotion with no awareness. Strength is emotion under control. So stop saying, "I'm just emotional." That's not truth. It's a lack of discipline. And discipline isn't cruel. It's clean. It's the difference between falling apart and breaking down with purpose. The first keeps you trapped. The second makes you real. And speaking of feeling trapped, Nietzsche had no patience for the victim mindset. He believed victimhood is the new kind of slavery. Not physical chains, but mental ones. The urge to blame, to wait for rescue, to use pain as an excuse to stay stuck. He didn't deny suffering. He denied surrender. So here's what you do next. Stop telling your story like a sad movie. Stop wearing your trauma like it's your name. Stop using your pain to win sympathy. Start turning it into strength. Because here's the truth. People don't care what broke you. Not really. They care what you build out of it. And if you can rise anyway, something solid. Something sharp, yet calm. Not loud, but impossible to shake. That's who you become. When your past becomes your furnace, and your scars turn into your armor. Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." But here's the truth. Your why isn't something you discover. It's something you choose that you don't wait for purpose. You make it. You carve it into your choices. And the moment you do, weakness begins to fade. Because when your path is clear, distractions fall away. Drama loses its grip. Doubt becomes background noise. And weakness? It simply disappears. So choose. Choose right now. Who do you serve? What are you building? What do you stand for? What will you no longer accept? Not for one more day. Write it down. Make it real. Make it your non-negotiable. Because if you don't, the world will choose for you. And it'll hand you a life that's soft, safe, forgettable. A life that keeps you small and silent. But that's not your story anymore. Because by the end of this, you won't be the same. Now we go deeper. We'll face the layers beneath your surface. We'll break the patterns that keep you stuck. And we'll finally bring you back to the version of you that was never broken, just caged. If you've made it this far, it says one thing: you're not like the rest. Most people run the second you touch their pain. They flinch. They scroll. They pretend they've heard it all before. But you're still here. And that means something inside you is waking up. Something ancient. Something wild. Something buried. Nietzsche didn't just write about strength. He wrote about why people fear their own power. He knew that weakness isn't just about body or mind. It's something deeper. It's written into the stories you've accepted, the beliefs you never questioned, the quiet pacts you made with fear long before you could name it. And one of the deepest roots of weakness? The fear of being alone. Let's talk about that. You've spent your whole life trying to fit in. School taught you to raise your hand before you act. Friends taught you to stay in line. Family taught you to bury what didn't fit. Relationships taught you to stay soft, non-threatening, easily digestible. And slowly, you became addicted to acceptance. Not love, just acceptance. The kind that asks you to shrink, to stay quiet, to shapeshift just to be tolerated. But Nietzsche would have looked you in the eyes and said, you must be willing to stand alone, fully, completely, if you ever want to meet your true self. Because belonging comes with a cost. And most people pay with their truth, with their strength, with their uniqueness. But not you. Not anymore. You're going to break the craving for approval. You're going to stop begging for space at their table. You're going to build your own table. And if no one sits with you, good. That means more room, more stillness, more clarity. That's your first upgrade. Choosing solitude over submission. Now let's go further. Why do you delay? Why do you put off the things you know would change you? Why do you sabotage your own progress? Most people call it laziness. But it's not. It's loyalty. A silent, buried agreement you made long ago to stay small so no one else would feel insecure. At some point, you learned that shining too bright pushed people away. You learned that power came with isolation, that honesty got punished, that ambition brought loneliness. So what did you do? You adapted. You learned how to dim. You learned how to stall, how to slow your own progress just to stay in the safe zone. That's not laziness. That's survival. But it's time to tear up that old contract. Because you weren't born to be tolerated. You're here to be felt. And that takes intensity. It takes bold choices. It takes the kind of honesty that makes average minds uncomfortable. Nietzsche once said, a snake that can't shed its skin must die. And that's what weakness really is. The refusal to change because you're scared of who might leave when you finally do. But now, you shed that skin. Not gently. Not slowly. You rip it off. The people pleaser. The self-doubter. The chronic overthinker. The emotional translator. Gone. Let's get practical. Start with your words. Every time you say, I don't know, when you do, you build confusion. Every time you say maybe instead of no, you break your own trust. Every time you say sorry just for taking space, asking questions, needing anything, you chip away at your backbone. Speak with clarity. Don't dilute. Don't downplay. Don't disguise. Some will call it rude. Let them. That's just resistance from people who got used to you being small. But you're not shrinking anymore. Now your body. Weakness hides in how you carry yourself, how you sit, how you walk, how you breathe. Most people move like prey. Hunched shoulders, eyes to the ground, shallow breaths. You can read someone's history in their posture. But now, it's time to rewrite yours. Stand like someone who knows they're seen. Walk like someone who expects to lead. Sit like someone who doesn't need permission. Every space you enter, own it. Not with force, with presence. And presence is born from conviction. And conviction comes from alignment. So ask yourself this. What do you believe in so deeply that you would walk away from anything that doesn't match it? Write it. Carry it. Live by it. Let it show up in your voice, in your habits, in your silence. Now let's bury something else. The victim mindset. Nietzsche couldn't stand the way modern culture turns pain into identity. He saw it as a trap. When you wear your wounds like a badge, you get addicted to the struggle. You confuse suffering with meaning, and you begin to find comfort in staying small. But the truth is, no one really cares what you went through. They care what you became because of it. And if all you became was bitter, scared, and fragile, then your story won. So rewrite it. Don't say, I survived. Say, I built fire from my pain. Don't say, I was hurt. Say, now I can't be broken. Don't say, I have anxiety. Say, I rule over stillness. Words are weapons. Use them with power. Or don't speak at all. Now let's bring this home. Because deep down, you already knew all of this. There's a part of you, focused, steady, clear, that's been quietly agreeing this whole time. That part remembers. It remembers what certainty feels like, what strength without apology feels like, What it means to protect your mind like a warrior guards a kingdom. To walk away from any moment that dims you. To say no with confidence. To say yes only when it sharpens you. To sit in silence and feel no urge to fill it. That's not hype. That's your center. You've come home. But there's one catch. Now that you know, you can't unknow. You can't return to being the version of yourself who made excuses, who delayed growth, who broke promises to his own potential. Because now you see it. And when you see clearly, you either rise or you lie. So make the choice. Become the man Nietzsche would admire. Not the loudest, not the most followed, not the most liked, the most real. The one who looks in the mirror and sees no fear, only presence. This is your new standard. Protect it like everything depends on it. Because it does.